All right, it's starting well already. So how many folks here have ever gone to take a shower, most likely to get clean is probably a goal, and found themselves by the end of it, they had solved a completely unrelated problem by the end? I suspected this would happen. There's a whole subreddit devoted to shower thoughts and those insights that we get from the shower. So I knew this would happen. I'm so glad it actually worked. The reason that I bring this up is because one of my goals for the talk today is that you would leave here realizing that being an onboarding superhero is as easy as solving world problems in the shower or getting home from work and sitting on the couch. And you'll never believe where I came up with the idea to start my talk that way. All right, if you don't know, you have not been paying attention. It was the shower. All right, so my name is Tara Scherner de la Fuente, and I am a software engineer at Roostify, which is a cloud-based mortgage software service based in San Francisco. I work from my living room in Portland, Oregon, and woohoo, yay! And I started at Roostify just on July 1st, and this is the third conference I've been to since I started with Roostify, which is to say I am definitely still onboarding. I show up for a few days and then I'm like, okay, I gotta go now. So so there's that. Most of the examples and things that I'll be talking about have to do with when I onboarded with Living Social about 2 years ago. It was my first tech job, and so I'll probably be talking about Living Social just a bit more. But Roostify is awesome. Before I get going, I do want to say that I don't put my Twitter handle on most of my slides because I'm just not into that. So if you're the sort of person who likes to live tweet, you can use my personal Twitter handle is Media Remedial, and so you can just jot that down. Also, I did include my other Twitter account, Goat User Stories, because I'm pretty excited. Last week, I got my very first sticker mule pack in the mail because my designer friend Robin Casey helped me design a Goat User Stories sticker, and I've been putting them out there on the table there, but I've held back like about 50 of them, so if you haven't gotten one yet, asking for a sticker is a great excuse to talk to me if you want that, or if you just want a sticker and then not to talk to me, that's fine too. Okay, so without further ado, how to be a superhero. We start really easy. We start with your name, and I'm not talking about like that first introduction because no one's remembering all the names when they're that first day of work. So I'm talking about when you go back to reintroduce yourself, and you might do this later in the day if things have slowed down. They probably haven't. But maybe the new person, maybe later in their first week or the next week. You want to go up to them and say something like, hey, I know we've already been introduced, but my name's Tara. I work over in integrations. If you have any questions, be happy to answer them or find someone who can answer them. And by the way, if there's anybody's name you think you're supposed to know and you don't, I will be happy to slip that to you on the down low. No one ever has to know. That right there is onboarding gold. That's the onboarding superhero gold you want to go for, is not just that you've reintroduced yourself and taken that burden away from them, like whether they're supposed to remember your name or not, but you're sort of entering into a secret pact with them, like I'm willing to help you level up and be perceived as the kind of person who remembers names, and that's going to be awesome for you. That's going to be great. Because the new person who is starting feels like this rabbit. This is the new person starting. And all the things are coming in. You're learning, you're meeting new people, you're learning new tools, you are maybe you're getting an official orientation, you're learning a code base, all kinds of intense things are happening, and the brain is trying to take it all in, but there's no discernment at all. The brain's just tagging everything. It's new, it might be important, it's new, it might be important, it's new, it might be important, and this is what happens. So anything you can do to kind of smooth out that knowledge coming in by offering up your name or offering other people's names, that's great stuff. One other great thing that you can do is to start thinking about how your team uses shorthand. And what I mean by that, I'm going to give you an example. The first week that I started at Living Social, I had to get some important piece of information so I could run it on my computer. And someone said, okay, it's in IA deployment. Does anybody know where IA deployment is? Because I did not know where it is. Spoiler alert, it's a repository called deployment. It is it's sub-nested under IA. IA is not called IA. IA is called internal apps. The good news is it was on GitHub, which is a common place for repositories to be kept. But Living Social had an enterprise account, which among other things means that GitHub was not in the web address. So I had no idea how to get to IA deployment. It was a mystery. So what I want to say is that if you can begin even just noticing the things that your team says that is shorthand for, you need to go to this website, go here, and you need to get into this repository called internal apps. You'll often hear it called IA, and then go here. Then, if you can start even just noticing those things where the shorthand is used, and if you're even better, you might actually note it down on a piece of paper, but you don't have to. This is like Shower Thoughts version of onboarding superheroes, right? So just begin to note those things where your team is using shorthand, and that can be a big help. If you're willing to contribute to documentation, so much the better, but I won't demand too much of you, or you can make your own demands of yourself. The important thing to remember is all the things are new. Your name is new, other people's names are new, all of that information is new, and the more you can do to be informative when you're asking questions and talking about things, and really translating that shorthand for other folks, the better off you'll be. Okay, so how to recognize a superhero, either because you need one or you want to be one. First of all, that person is probably doing some of the things that I've already talked about. It could be anyone, but it's probably somebody who's asking questions, who's paying attention to the answers, offering explanations. Best of all, it's somebody who's willing to share their embarrassing stories of bad things they did on the job that you're maybe doing, and they're willing to share their mistakes, their foibles, and their vulnerabilities. This is one of my superheroes from Living Social. Some of you may recognize her. Her name is Carrie Miller. She is an avid speaker at a lot of conferences, and she also is one of the organizers for Open Source and Feelings, a conference that just wrapped up a couple weeks ago. Oh, I see cheers. Yay. I love that conference. She is fantastic. One of her talks that is out there right now is called Failure for Fun and Profit. She also has another talk, something like Things I Wish I'd Known, before becoming a developer or a designer. And it's just about tools she wished she'd had. Moreover, I don't know if you can tell, but Carrie's got some colored hair there and rainbow bandana happening. She's already about 6 feet tall. She's a tall woman, and she will often be at conferences. She's always wearing some kind of a rainbow bandana. She often has tie-dyed t-shirt and a coat that is rainbow tie-dyed, and she does it specifically, and she explicitly says, I'm wearing this so that you can find me and ask me questions. And not just about the talks that she gives, but about code, about any kind of development or designing. She offers to help people write talk proposals. If you wanted to be up here, Carrie would offer to do that. Heck, I'll offer to do that. Carrie is the epitome of an onboarding superhero. I mean, she puts on literally a superhero costume. I mean, it doesn't get any more superhero than that. She is at GitHub now, and she has been turned into an Octocat. Can you imagine anything as nerdy cool as being turned into an Octocat? I covet this, right? Carrie is amazing. She is such a superhero, has a costume, and is now an Octocat. It's just amazing. So the point is that a superhero, an onboarding superhero, could be anyone. I hope it will be you as you begin to observe some of these things and kind of implement them in your own lives. But it could be anyone, and hopefully you will find superheroes and be a superhero. Just like we're all teachers and learners, we got to trade off that sort of thing. Okay, so how to develop your superhero powers. I'm a developer, so I thought this was funny. No? Okay, that's all I got. So this is another one of my superheroes. That's Daryl Rivera on the right, and that's him with, I don't remember if it's his partner or his boyfriend or his husband, but that's his person next to him. Anyway, Daryl is awesome, and here's the thing about Daryl is that he was on my team when I first started, and I had to ask him a basic question about something on my job. It was probably Git related, let's be honest. So I had to ask him a question, and it felt like one of those embarrassing questions, those stupid questions. We've all heard the cliche about there's no such thing as a stupid question, but anyone who has asked one knows that there are plenty of them. And so I asked him my stupid question, and then later I realized if I ask Daryl all of my stupid questions, then only one person will know that they should not have hired me. Right? So that's what I did. I asked Daryl all of my stupid questions. And soon, like at the second or third one, I thought, well, I don't want Daryl to know that I'm completely incompetent and have him thinking I'm asking all the people these questions. So I said, Daryl, we are going to make a secret pact, and I'm going to ask you all my stupid questions, and then you'll be the only one who knows they shouldn't have hired me. And Daryl just laughed, and he thought that was funny, and then he did it. So thank goodness, because when I first, I don't know if anybody in here has rebased code before. You probably have. The first few times you do that, it is terrifying. There was this one moment where I did a thing, and I went completely pale, cold, clammy, sweat broke out, and it was late at night, and I'm like, I was DMing on Twitter, please help me, and it was awful, and I really thought I was going to pass out. I did not, but Daryl kept doing the rebases with me, and before long, I could make coffee with one hand, and I'm standing on one leg, and I'm rebasing, I screw the pooch on the rebase, and then I come back, and I'm like, no big deal, I'll fix that, because Daryl helped me. He was my superhero. Because of him, I could get in there and do it. Okay, so I'll come back to Daryl in a little bit, but I want to address some low-hanging fruit, like how you can superhero it up. One thing, you may be going to, say, lunch with a new coworker. Instead, this is just a little language change. Instead of, do you have dietary restrictions? You can ask, what are your dietary restrictions? And that might seem kind of insignificant, but I have dietary restrictions myself, and sometimes I don't want to advocate for myself, especially if I feel like I've been asking stupid questions all day and maybe I'm slowing down my team. Now, if they say, do you have dietary restrictions, I might think, oh gosh, one more impediment in the workflow is now I have to tell them I basically only eat meat and cheese. And none of it can be pork or shellfish. And, but so if you say, what are your dietary restrictions? I don't have to advocate for myself. You just want to implement my dietary restrictions into your plans. And so off we go. And things are great. So that's just an easy, you could totally do that from your couch. Don't do it from the shower, because that would be inappropriate. But do it, that's easy. So change the language. When I was preparing for this talk, I was thinking about, I think many of us know what to do if we're encountered with a disability that we can see and what accommodations we might make. And hopefully you actually ask the person involved what kind of things can be helpful for them to kind of get going. But what about those disabilities that you can't see? And there are so many of them, too many really for me to list and do justice to them. I strongly recommend that if you want to become more aware of how you can superhero folks, that you look into what those invisible disabilities are. I can only really speak with authority about an experience that I had. Not exactly a disability, but I think it will illustrate a point. When I started at Living Social, I did work from my living room, which was awesome, but we had a Portland downtown office, and I went in there my first week, especially just for a few days to meet with folks. And I was about 140 pounds heavier than I am right now, and I had stress fractures in both of my feet, and I wore things in my shoes to support my feet so that they could hopefully heal. I had a tendon issue in my knee. Moreover, walking more than a block took a lot of, I would be breathing heavy, I would be sweating, it would be just things to consider. And so you had to park far away from the office. Far away from me at the time was 6 blocks. And so I would get there early so that I could walk slowly to the office. And then there was another time that I took public transportation. I realized I could get off the bus about a block from it. It required 2 buses and a streetcar, and I did it because I had to figure out how to accommodate my stress fractures and my weight and the out-of-breath thing that was happening with me. I didn't want to start the new job, not know anything, and be sweating profusely. That just didn't seem like a good idea. So that I would handle that, but then people on my first day, somebody invited me just to walk to the store, like a Whole Foods, to get something for lunch, and I thought, well, that's fine. And then we took off at breakneck speed down for 3 blocks, which was like a marathon for me at the time, a marathon on broken feet. And I swore I would never go to lunch with anybody ever again. I did change my mind on that, by the way. But the point is that you don't know what movement challenges people are dealing with just because they've walked into the office. And so let your new person set the pace if you go out there. Ask them, hey, we're thinking about going to a restaurant 6 blocks away. Do you want to take an Uber? Or, hey, we could bring stuff back if you want that. They don't have to confess what their problems are. You can just think about what there might be. And I want to share one other thing. I think I'll be all right. Shortly before I got the job at Roostify, I was invited to a big recruiting event at a company local in Portland. And, it was a big shindig, very good food, I have to admit. It was a great shindig, but I was walked in to the office, and then we trotted up the stairs to the 2nd floor. And I don't really have movement challenges anymore, but as they trotted me up the stairs without questioning whether or not I could, I thought, I don't want to work here. They didn't even think about what they would do if I did have a movement challenge. And so I did eat their kebabs because they were very good. But, because remember, I can only eat meat and cheese, and there was meat, so I ate it. But I didn't want to work there. So if nothing else, these are recruiting strategies as well. If you are seen to be thinking about somebody else, that can be a recruiting technique. So why bother to do this other than recruiting? I want to return to Daryl, for example. Early on, even though we had the secret pact, I did tell my boss, who was also Daryl's boss, that Daryl was helping me out. Then later, when I was brewing the coffee and rebasing and standing on one leg, I confessed to the boss that I had told Daryl all my stupid questions. I had asked him all my stupid questions, and we laughed again, because it turns out I wasn't as incompetent as I thought, thank God. But I confessed that, and moreover, and so Daryl got a reputation of mentoring people, being willing to level up the team for the good of all, and to be somebody who you can have confidence in, or a confidence in. Moreover, there was somebody on DevOps who really helped me out that first month, just off and on. If she didn't know the answer, she found the answer, but got me going. Yes, I have time to show you this. See this decal on my laptop? I had been a PC person before I worked in code, and I hated this thing when I first got it. And as you can see, this is why I picked the decal. I couldn't even figure out how to save a file and find the folder where you save the thing. It was awful. So DevOps really helped me in so many different ways. There was an official way to acknowledge her and to send a letter to her boss and have her be officially acknowledged in the newsletter. So you can level up career-wise. You can be acknowledged for mentoring folks if you are an onboarding superhero. I will say she went on, I'm not saying it was because of my accolades, but she did go on to be promoted into the manager position when that was vacated. She's now a manager over at DigitalOcean, and she's doing great. So career advancement, if for no other reason. But the main reason is that we are all really just vulnerable meat sacks. And so anything that you can do to make life a little smoother, the edges a little smoother on our little vulnerable meat sack lives, I mean, that's the superhero goal. That's the ongoing, the onboarding superhero stuff that we should really all be doing. I'm hoping my talk helps you look for opportunities to do some superheroing. It can be as natural as solving world problems in the shower or sitting down on the couch at the end of a long day. Speaking of being at the end of the long day, somebody gave me a tip that I should wrap up early when I'm the last talk, right before lunch. So I am going to, but I do want to say, look at how cute my Goat User Story sticker is. And I have some left. So if you have not gotten one and you would like to, please do see me. And my name's Tara. Thank you very much for attending my talk.